All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. We're talking Bengals. I loved their draft, and I love the Bengals. I think this is still just such a slept-on team. I mean, it's crazy that Joe Burrow only played 10 football games, went down with a season-ending injury. They still finished above 500, even with an underperforming defense. And, just a lot of miscommunication, specifically in the secondary. Their rush defense was horrible, and they still went 9-8 despite having one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL missing about half of your season. So, everybody's fading the Bengals, and it's because of the T. Higgins trade request. By the way, Chad Johnson, Ocho Cinco, just said he's going to be all right. He's going to be a Bengal. I totally agree with him. T. Higgins, they're going to pay T. Higgins. They're going to pay Trey eventually as well. All these guys are going to get paid, and the Bengals are on their vengeance tour as it stands right now. So I'm absolutely amped. I know my Bengals fans watching this video are as well. But before we get into the draft and the overall outlook for this Bengals team, if you guys wouldn't mind hitting that like button, hit that sub button for daily NFL content. We post a decent amount of Bengals videos on this channel. If you could try and get this video to 100 likes, that would mean the absolute world to me. So round one, pick 18 overall, Amarius Mims, offensive tackle out of Georgia. According to NFL Next Gen Stats, his 86.7-inch wingspan is the 10th longest of all tackles measured at the combine, dating back to 2003. After the Bengals made the pick, offensive coordinator Dan Pitcher said Mims not only has great length, but is able to use that size to his advantage as well. So kind of going back to the whole Bengals flying under the radar thing, we look at the right tackle, whereas Mims is projected to be. However, he's not going to start this season. If your man, Trent Brown, free agent pickup from the New England Patriots, if he's healthy, he's winning the job as he should, and Mims will be more of a next year starter. So Cincinnati does such a great job at this, in my opinion, where they draft these players thinking in advance, thinking a year in advance, and that's exactly what you see here with the Mims pick in the first round. Now, round two, pick 49 overall, you got Chris Jenkins, defensive tackle out of Michigan. He went to Michigan where they just won the national championship. He started 37 games for them over the last 3 seasons. Now, he's a defensive tackle, so the stats aren't going to, blow you out of the water, but hopefully you can see it on the film. In those 3 years, 113 total tackles, including 8.5 for a loss, 4.5 sacks, and he even had an interception as a senior. So he's 6'3", 299 pounds. He's got a great feel for the game, great IQ. He's going to fit in perfectly with Coach Lou, and he's a very athletic, freak of nature athlete. And when we take a look at the defensive side of things, specifically interior defensive line, because you lost DJ Reader, this is once again not that Chris Jenkins isn't going to have some type of role this upcoming season, because he certainly is, but this is more of these long-term fill in the gap for DJ Reader long-term, because you still got BJ Hill and you got Sheldon Rankins coming on over from the Houston Texans, Sam Hubbard on your edge, and then Trey Hendrickson on the other edge. And by the way, while we're on the topic, Miles Murphy breakout season, put it in pen right here, right now. Fun fact, defensive coordinator Coach Lou joked that he was squinting for an hour, hoping that the Wolverines product wouldn't come off the board before the team got back on the clock at number 49 overall. This is huge because his forte, his specialty is rush defense, stopping the run, and the Bengals defense last season was horrible, giving up 4.7 yards per carry. Healthy Joe Burrow, injured Joe Burrow, doesn't matter if your defense is giving up 4.7 yards per carry. It's not looking good. So huge move, great move, love it. Now round 3, wide receiver Germaine Burton, wide receiver out of Alabama, round 3, pick 80 overall. So once again, you got Jamar Chase. We all know that. You did lose Tyler Boyd. He officially went to the Tennessee Titans a couple of days ago, and T. Higgins is on a franchise tag. So once again, I think T. Higgins will be here to stay. However, you never know, because Jamar Chase is undisputedly a top 5 wide receiver in the NFL. You got Joe Burrow. You got a lot of dudes you need to pay. And I wouldn't be surprised if T. Higgins long-term wasn't a Bengal. I think it will happen. Neither here nor there, because Germaine Burton's got up next regardless of who's on the team. And by the way, Trenton Irwin slated as your wide receiver 3, your slot wide receiver as it stands right now. Whenever his name is called, he steps up and he rises to the occasion. The only thing is, because of Tyler Boyd. He's never really, his name hasn't been called all that much, but he's very reliable, very dependable. So, I get it. The Tyler Boyd loss certainly was huge. You hate to see it, but Trenton Irwin is, very reliable, very dependable. But Germaine Burton, high production receiver at Bama. The reason he fell all the way to round 3 was because of his off the field issues. Nick Saban had a whole thing about it, like, play with emotions, but don't be emotional. And I think he's going to fit well with head coach Zach Taylor. But high production receiver at Alabama. He led the team last year in receiving yards and touchdowns. He produced great numbers, 798 receiving yards and 8 touchdowns. And what's even crazier is in his college career, he averaged over 18 yards per catch. And last season, he averaged 20.5 yards per catch in his final year at Alabama. And he also had 39 catches. So it's not like it's this super small sample size. One thing I do know about the Cincinnati Bengals, whether T. Higgins banged up or Joe Burrow's banged up, whatever the case is, they need more big time plays. And that's exactly what you're going to be getting with Germaine Burton. And it's going to start right away. Once again, the T. Higgins future is still looming, but Germaine Burton long-term, I absolutely love it. And I do think he'll make an impact day one. The most important thing, as we know with the Cincinnati Bengals, is that Joe Burrow is back and Joe Burrow is healthy. I love the rivalry between Kansas City until they got him a couple of years ago in the AFC Championship game. Joe Burrow and the Bengals had the Chiefs' number. And unfortunately, last year was like the year to beat Kansas City. And unfortunately, once again, Joe Burrow got injured, as we all know. So this vengeance tour, everything I'm hearing from Joe Burrow, he's addicted to getting better every single day. You just can't fade him. He had a great season last year. If Cincinnati just doesn't get off to one of their, classic slow starts, I don't care what the schedule is looking like. It's looking like the AFC North schedule is going to be a little bit difficult, but it really doesn't matter because Cincinnati on paper, when they're healthy, with a healthy Joe Burrow, is one of the best teams in the National Football League. They moved on from Joe Mixon and they went with Zach Moss, and I love Zach Moss. I think it was a great move. He spent last year with Indianapolis. He was a freaking stud. He was like the league's best rusher when Jonathan Taylor was injured to start the season. And I think he's just been begging for a solidified starting role. And that's exactly what Cincinnati is giving him. You bring back Drew Sample. You also draft a tight end. We'll talk about the rest of the Bengals draft as the offseason progresses. Mike Gesicki from New England spent a lot of his career with Miami. Very reliable, very dependable tight end. Reminds me of Hayden Hurst. Irv Smith Jr. obviously didn't work out last season, but last season in general was a wash. But I think the fact that this defense, guys, it's much better than they were last year, and it mainly has to do with the defensive back room. You bring in Geno Stone, who had like 7 picks with Baltimore last year. DJ Turner, breakout season on the way. You bring back Von Bell, who spent last year with Carolina. Cam Taylor-Britt, underrated. The defense is looking good, coached by Coach Lou, and the offense is the offense with Joe Burrow. And you got better with Burton and long-term with Mims. So thank you guys for watching. Hit that like button, hit that sub button, but give me a win-loss projection as it stands on paper right now for Cincinnati next year down below. Peace.